Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the phone Ambassador Wafaa Basseem, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, to be focusing and shedding more light on the visit of Sultan of Oman Haytham bin Tariq to Egypt and meeting with His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday. Mrs. Wafaa, Ambassador Wafaa, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you.
First of all, how do you see the significance of such a visit by the Sultan of Oman at this time?
This visit continues the context and the line of foreign policy of Egypt under President al-Sisi, which is the attempt and sincere attempts all the time to close the ranks with the Arab countries, which are our first and important circle of interest for foreign relations. The president has just come back from Saudi Arabia, where he attended the summit of the Arab League. And in his speech, he spelled out the importance of solidarity, of unity, of working together among the Arabs for finding feasible and proper solutions for the many crises that are facing our Arab world and our region.
Yes.
His Highness the Sultan was not in the summit by himself, but he was represented, of course. So I would imagine that the first topic that would be among the bilateral and the tete-a-tete of the two leaders would be to brief each other, and the president would brief the Sultan about the summit, about what he thinks of the consultations that took place between the Arab leaders on the sidelines of the summit on the different crises and problems that we are facing, and definitely he was the Sultan, His Highness, would share with President al-Sisi his views, his point of view, his suggestions on how to work together, as we have always worked together as Oman and Egypt on trying to find ways and means for peaceful and brotherly and conflict. The other thing will be, of course, focusing on these crises themselves and sharing points of view, events, developments, concerns, of course, the role of the international community, and I just enumerate those crises, those conflicts, of course, among them, and the first one would be the Palestinian problem. Yes. And let's say we have seen today another attack on the Holy Mosque in Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, and now Egypt has condemned fiercely this new attack, which is not, and of course the harassment presented by holding a meeting of Israeli ministers under or within the Aqsa Mosque and its surroundings. The other thing will be, of course, Sudan. The second thing, with the very concerning situation taking place where the two leaders have definitely hailed the temporary ceasefire that was signed in Jeddah, but of course they expressed their hope that it would turn to a permanent ceasefire that would allow to find ways and means to solve the question, the problem in Sudan, and to protect the lives of people, civilians, and of course to protect the infrastructure and the non-separation and cessation of this brotherly country. We have Yemen, which is of major importance, especially for the fact that it is a neighboring country to Oman and an important country to Egypt. We have Syria, we have Libya,
yes.
We have, of course, all the issues concerning the security in the Gulf, the reintegration of Syria into the Arab League, but at the same time, the signs that are showing certain progress in the relation of Turkey, Iran, towards the Arab world in the form of non-interference in their internal affairs, which is an important principle dear to the hearts and minds of both Oman and Egypt.
Yes, Ambassador Wafaa Basseem, at the beginning you have mentioned the participation of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the Arab League Summit, which was held in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, over the past few days. And you mentioned that one of the priorities for Egypt is the unity of the Arab countries, the solidarity of the Arab countries, one of the priorities for the Egyptian state in specific. How did you see the efforts of Egypt under the political leadership of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry over the past few years to be reaching that goal with the Arab states?
Well, Egypt has been participating, if not initiating, a lot of efforts to achieve an alignment of the points of view and the practical measures that should be taken by the Arab countries towards different specific crises that we are facing. Egypt will be part of the contact group on Sudan that is at the ministerial level, that is one of the results of the Arab League Summit. Egypt is involved wholly, totally, sincerely with efforts taking place to reintegrate, to the integration of Libya, to the peaceful solution of the conflict in this country, and waiting eagerly for the elections to be taking place in Libya, as its Prime Minister had said in the summit, towards the end of this year. It's also following and consulting continuously with the UN envoy and with the neighboring countries surrounding Libya, of course, as it is a very strategic issue for all of us there, and particularly in Egypt. Also, Egypt has welcomed the return of Syria to seat into the Arab world, and which was preceded by a number of contacts, visits, telephone calls whether by His Excellency Shukri to Syria, and before that the consultations that took place in Saudi Arabia, or when he received his counterpart, Mr. Miqdad, in Cairo, where he was honored by meeting with President Sisi, but where the two ministers have discussed the different aspects of the crisis and expressed the hope that the reintegration of Syria into the Arab League would contribute positively to the return to peace and stability in Syria.
Yes, this is a very important point, Mrs. Ambassador, as you mentioned, the readmittance or the integration of Syria into the Arab League fold, as we did see the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad participating in the summit for the first time in over a decade. How do you think this step would be helping in solving the internal conflicts within Syria?
Well, it was very clear that the presence of Syria among its brotherly countries, among its family within the Arab League, would definitely give more support to the position of Syria, to the status of Syria towards the what's happening internally there, and would help, in my opinion, to reduce until we end the interference into the affairs of Syria from different players and actors, whether state actors or non-state actors within the affairs of Syria. On the other hand, it will permit to assist Syria in its humanitarian crisis, in its economic problems resulting from all these years of war, of internal conflicts, of issues related to refugees displaced outside Syria and in the neighboring countries. I think it's a positive development because now we will discuss Syria, not about Syria, but with Syria itself when it is present within the Arab League.
And regarding Sudan in specific, as we have seen the conflict there for over a month, how do you see the efforts of Egypt in calming the situation and getting the displaced Sudanese citizens into Egypt and providing them with all the needed care?
Well, many contacts have taken place between President El-Sisi and Sir Al-Burhan.
Yes.
I mean, one was very recently. There are also the contacts between His Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, Shukri, with responsibles in Sudan, with high officials in South Sudan. There was even an initiative that is being on the way, but that needs to be implemented. It needs a certain ceasefire and a certain calm, as well as any other initiative to save or to ameliorate the in Sudan. Egypt is receiving thousands of Sudan,
yes,
but from many nationalities that were stranded in Khartoum and that are doing their best to come out of the risk of loss of life, loss of lives mainly, which is the most important for the time being, and that's through the three ways: the maritime way via Port Sudan, the and the airway until it has been stopped, but mainly through the southern common joint frontiers with Sudan, as we have seen in Arkin and Kospel.
Yes.
Thousands of people have been in, thousands of people are received, whether men, women, children, elderly, and despite they are very welcome, I wish that the international community would be aware of what kind of effort and burden Egypt is undertaking with all goodwill to accommodate this critical humanitarian situation for our brothers in Sudan, from Sudan, and other nationalities that were residing there as well. We are, as we say, now member of the contact group at the ministerial level of the Arab League concerning Sudan. We are watching also with a critical eye the developments in Darfur, in East Sudan, and hoping that this violence, that this conflict will not extend to other parties in Sudan, and that the parties that are there will have the wisdom to understand that they are wasting a great country, and that they should come to reason and to start thinking about the country itself, the state itself, and the civilians living there.
And returning to the main topic for today of the daily debate, which is the visit of the Sultan of Oman, as we did see His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi paying a visit to the Sultanate of Oman in June of 2022, having a lot of agreements and various programs between both countries to be agreed upon, to be implemented in the near future. What does this visit mean during the timing of it? In May of 2023 and June of 2022. Do you think that those programs and those agreements and those memoranda of understanding will be implemented as soon as possible?
Well, I think we have seen very positive signs of the implementation of parts of these programs and understandings through the holding of the Joint Commission, through the increase in commercial exchanges, in trade, in fields and new fields of investment, on both, through the increase of the Egyptian experts towards Oman and vice versa. We have seen also this warmth of the relation coming from the coordination at the political level of the views and the seeing of eye to eye of countries in the international fora, especially at the United Nations, whether General Assembly or other specialized agencies. Yes. For the issues of common concern. We have a good military cooperation, and until now, at least through the last 2-3 years, we have participated together in many important maneuvers, such as Sowik II and the Shield of the Gulf in Saudi Arabia, and the force of the mountain in the Green Mountain in Oman. There is always an exchange of views between the authorities, between the high officials, and now we are watching more agreements and minimum and memorandum of understanding to be signed during the visit in the area of culture, of heritage, of common heritage, of art, as well as the reparation and of the old antiquities and the documents. There is, I mean, the sky is the limit now for the cooperation between Egypt and Oman. And let's not forget that the two countries have many in common in both their visions, Egypt 2030 and Oman 2040.
How can we be cooperating, as you mentioned, Mrs. Ambassador, that both countries, they have visions for the future, Egypt in about 7 years' time and Oman in about 17. How do you think we could be cooperating in order to be achieving what we both want for both peoples of Egypt and Oman regarding 2030 and 2040?
I think it's very important to start with the economy.
Yes.
As the economy is an important bridge to approach the two countries. Political relations are excellent, and there is always room for more. But they are already excellent. They have never watched any let's say, contradictions, any differences as far as the issues of common concern. Oman has always supported Egypt in its position when others wouldn't understand, for instance, the peace process that Egypt has led in the region, and many other situations where both countries were shouldering each other. Nevertheless, I think it's of the view of both sides that the economic relations, the investment, the trade balance, but it's not as compatible with the excellent relations on the political and cultural level that is taking place. We have that is now in place. We have also the field of tourism that could be promoted on both sides. We have the field of energy, of the food security, of metallurgy, of transport, of pharmaceutical products. I mean, you just name it. We can work together because the opportunities are there.
Yes, specifically between Egypt and Oman, the volume of trade exchange has nearly doubled between both countries between 2021 and 2022. What does this say specifically about the strength of the Egyptian economy and the economic reform program that was implemented here in the country under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi?
Well, I think it's of the service of more opening, of improving the investment environment, for attracting more interest and more investors to Egypt. And let's not forget also the transfer of currency that takes place between Egypt and between Oman and Egypt through the many Egyptian workers in all fields that are in Oman, which is also a way of consolidating those excellent relationships. Both countries have agreed now, And during the last few years and since the first visit of President El-Sisi last year to Oman, and even before, about what he would call the economic diplomacy. That will be also one of the principles and the important points, the important main slogans, but not only slogans, the main goals in the ministry and in the mission, the diplomatic mission of the two countries abroad.
Yes, Ambassador Wafaa Basseem, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate over the phone. We will be heading to the other report of the Daily Debate for tonight, as Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry has urged the Business Council or the Joint Business Council meetings to be investing more into Egypt in the near future. We'll be having more details regarding this issue in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry urged Omani private sector and businessmen to enhance their presence in Egyptian market during a meeting with Egypt-Oman Joint Business Council in Muscat. Shoukry urged the Omani private sector and businessmen to maximize their direct investments in Egypt and benefit from the joint developmental and economic projects that Egypt is carrying out. The Egyptian Foreign Minister highlighted these projects' role in securing diverse investment following Egypt's economic reform and improved investment climate. Shoukry visited the Sultanate of Oman to head the Egyptian delegation participating in the 15th round of the Egyptian-Omani Joint Committee. During the visit, the top Egyptian diplomat inaugurated the Arabi Specialized Hospital, a joint Egyptian-Omani investment project. The Joint Business Council was established in 2019 to enhance economic cooperation between the two countries. During the session, Shoukry hailed the Council's recent role in boosting joint investments and exploring the available cooperation opportunities between Egypt and Oman. The Council seeks to enhance economic and commercial relations between Egypt and Oman so that they reflect the two countries' friendly relations and real capacities. The Egyptian Foreign Minister voiced aspiration that the Joint Business Council, which includes Egyptian and Omani economic figures, support the governmental efforts seeking to boost development between the two countries. He also urged the Council's figures to develop Egyptian-Omani economic cooperation and benefit from the will of the two countries' political leaderships to maximize economic interests and enhance bilateral cooperation between the two countries. Shoukry held the regular holding of the Joint Business Council since its establishment, saying this reflects the firm will of the two sides to expand Egyptian-Omani cooperation. Egypt's President Fattah el-Sisi and Oman's Sultan Haytham bin Tariq underscored the need to enhance economic investment and increase trade between the two countries. In December, Egyptian Minister of Trade and Industry met with the Omani Trade Minister, where they affirmed that intensive meetings would be held in the near future between the two sides' officials and businessmen to enhance trade relations. Trade exchange between the two countries has hit $500 million. The Omani investments in Egypt amounted to $77.5 million injected into 92 companies operating in the fields of industry, tourism, constructions, and agriculture. The Egyptian investments in Oman stood at $680 million injected into 142 companies specialized in the field of infrastructure, road projects, and